is going on, everybody? Hello, hello. Welcome to your conspiracy theory stream. It has been a long time since we've had the last one, but I got two of my favorite people in the world to talk conspiracy. Oh, actually, just two of my favorite people in the world in general, but definitely to talk conspiracy theories, Darkest Night and Walking Keys. Gentlemen, how are you?
Doing fantastic, man.
Excellent. I am excited about this conversation. And you know what? Darkest Night is already on the moon. Look at that. Love the background.
I have to bring my receipts, man. I have to bring my receipts.
I love it every time. My favorite.
Hopefully this should be coming with the backdrop of some of the other UAP stuff that's been going around. But we'll talk about that. We'll save that for later towards the end. So we have a little bit of a structure. I got to thank Darkest Night for this. Where he's been using AI, and he essentially had AI help us figure out how to design this podcast or this episode. So we're going to talk about probably three of the most popular moon conspiracy theories, and we're just going to jump in, just share our stuff, and then I don't know, continue on from there. What do you guys think?
Perfect.
Keys, did you want to go first tonight?
No, I wanted you to lead us off. This is your channel. You are a pillar of the NFT gaming community.
Fair enough. Okay, well, I appreciate that. Let me just say hello to the
I'm not prepared, so just,
wait. Do you remember what your topic was?
I have no idea. No, yeah, I do. I'm kidding. I'm not that. I'm playing dumb.
All right, so Fusion Sound is in the house. Temporarily Obsessed. Let's go.
That's me, by the way.
I know. Jobby Saints. Make sure you guys go check out Temporarily Obsessed. When's your next interview? You doing some soon?
No, I have nothing planned.
All right, Jobby Saints is in the house. Splinter Shorts. Tales from the Cryptmancer.
Oh, man, Tales.
Crypto boys and ghouls.
Dude, that guy's voice is epic. Him and Casey Kasem should do their own commercial or something.
I think Tails. I think you should try to be a voice actor. I mean, it's so recognizable. All right, so let's go ahead and jump in. I'm gonna start and kick things off. My topic specifically was on the hollow moon theory, and so I actually learned quite a bit on this. I mean, I've heard the theory around before, but I did not realize, looking at the origins, and I'm just going to read off some notes here. Looking at the origins, I didn't realize that one of the biggest parts of this was in 1969, the Apollo 12 seismometers essentially recorded an event where I think they crashed something into the surface of the moon, and the moon rang like a bell for several hours after being struck by a lunar module. So this was interpreted as evidence that it could potentially be hollow. But this was further kind of like put forth with Arthur C. Clarke's novel Rendezvous with Rama, where a hollow moon is presented as an alien artifact. So I think they just kind of ran with that. And that came out in 1973. So, I think from there, the conspiracy web just started to, or what it was, conspiracy like telephone just started to take a life of its own. And since then, that's kind of like where the thing started. But I don't know. What do you guys have any thoughts on that, or have you heard anything differently?
No. So I don't know. We talked about this once before, where I've often thought that the moon was a spaceship, right? Mm-hmm. And so, I don't know if you guys know, I was mobilized during a Desert Storm, and so we had soldiers over in Iraq. And if you remember, that area is the cradle of civilization. Now, they thought we were fighting for oil, but I think that we were fighting for the control mechanisms of the moon station. That's what I think. Because we looted museums, we did a lot of stuff, and we just grabbed up everything, right? So and I think that's why now we're going back to the moon.
So wait, okay, what makes you think that it was moon related?
Well, I mean,
just everything that you were collecting up.
Yeah.
Okay.
We're going in deep quick.
Well, I'm not saying what we grabbed, but I saw some things, man, that'll make your next one. And we'll talk about that during my segment.
Oh, okay. All right. Fair enough. Now,
damn, I don't have a teaser when I talk, but I do want to mention one thing here. You mentioned, I think, the Apollo 11 mission, that they dropped something. I think also Apollo 13 dropped something that was much larger. and then it rang they said it rang like a bell for hours. It was
Yeah.
3 hours the first time, and it was almost a day the second time.
There was a second time. Interesting.
There were 2 different times where they dropped stuff. The first time they dropped something, like you said, a module or something. The second time they dropped something heavier, like they intended to do that.
Gotcha.
So, I mean, it also doesn't mean that it's necessarily hollow. It could just mean it's porous. But one thing that's interesting too, to add credence to that potentially, is that all the craters on the moon, none of them go past a certain depth. They're all, no matter how wide they are, they all go down a certain depth. They don't go past a certain point. And the dirt that's on the top of the moon is actually older than the dirt that's on, like, a little further down.
So it's like by design, you're saying.
It seems like it's hitting a hard shell of something, which could be a spaceship, like Darkest Night said, but it's hitting something. That's why none of those meteors, and you can see behind Darkest Night, it's a great example. No matter how wide any of them are, they all look of like the same depth. So it could potentially be hitting something and just crushing itself. Like, that's why there's so much dust and so much debris and stuff. But nothing can penetrate that layer.
So let me ask you a question. Could the same thing be said for the United States? Or not the United States, but the world?
I don't think so.
Goes below a certain depth.
I mean, I don't think so. I believe science and Pangea. Yeah, but there's even the hollow Earth stuff takes into account like the mantle and how deep like the crust is and stuff like that. So like there are pockets, like if you think Himalayas are 2 miles up, imagine what you could create in 2 miles of caverns, or whatever. Like, I mean, like the potential for like underground lakes and things like that are 100% like possible in the world of science as we know it and defined as we know it. How large they could be, we don't know, but on the moon we don't know, and it goes to a certain depth and nothing goes past that, which I think, I mean, if it's hollow, I mean that outer shell is indestructible or something.
Yeah, well, nothing's penetrated.
Well, there's a couple of elements that would facilitate that. Right? Titanium is extremely durable, right? And there is a high percentage of titanium in lunar regolith, right? So.
Yep. And moon dust is deadly. Like, it will kill brain cells and lung cells. So if you inhale it, like a good amount, you're going down. So. It's because it's so sharp is what it cuts everything that it gets into.
Like super asbestos.
Yeah, I guess. Yeah, kind of like that. Yeah, you're right. So it is interesting. And a couple other things here. The moon is very unique in the fact that it has a perfectly circular orbit, which is unlike anything else in our galaxy. It's the largest moon in the galaxy. It's also the size of it is exactly the same ratio as us and the distance of the sun and the size of the sun. So that's why we can have eclipses and stuff, and they block each other out, because it's the same ratio to look like the same size in the sky, which is incredible. And it has a dark side, which means one side always faces us no matter what happens, which is unlike anything else in the galaxy. So just a few weird things about it. It is potential that there's a lot of old stories that say the moon was put there or built there, and this would have happened right around the Younger Dryas, which is about 12,900 years ago, when a potential couple meteors hit the North American ice shelf, and that created the flood and reset, civilization.
So isn't there also more so like a scientific theory that like the moon was just a meteor asteroid that like bounced off the Earth?
Yeah, I mean that's like the prevailing thought.
Yeah,
but it doesn't seem like Like the formation of it afterwards doesn't seem normal, especially considering that it doesn't spin the way that the rest of like the spherical objects in the solar system do, right?
So
Yeah.
one has nothing really to do with the other, right? So there was the theory is there was another planet called Thea that hit the Earth, and this is long before the Earth even looked remotely the way it does now. It hit a lot of the ejected matter from the crust, from the Earth, basically started spinning, and through accretion, right? It's a process by which matter will start to clump together. And through accretion, it actually created the moon. And again, stay through just normal, gravity and just the warping of space. It just the moon orbits the United States. It's the world, and it's constantly falling towards the planet. It's almost like going down a drain. But that force of the orbit keeps it going around. And so, if at one point you could say that rather than having a moon, we might have had a ring for many millions of years, right? Just a ring of just debris just spinning around the world, right? Some of it didn't accrete, right? Probably fell back to Earth, and some of it formed the moon.
Here's the thing, though. There is the theory of. It's not even a theory, but like, something in motion will stay in motion until something stops it, right?
Yeah.
If what you're saying is true, and there was a belt around the world, and it was spinning, and then all of a sudden, formed this moon, the largest satellite in our entire galaxy. Why would it stop moving?
That's my.
You know what I'm
thing.
saying?
Yeah, the fact that
because
we
it
only
doesn't
face one
spin.
side.
It's locked in a position. So if it's spinning and forms, why would it stop? What is causing it to stop?
Well, things become tightly locked, right? So we have, even in our solar system, right, we have some planets, like Mercury, is tightly locked, right? So it's just a bunch of different conditions, right, will create a tightly locked body. So
There's a dark side of Mercury?
There is. Absolutely. So one always faces the sun. And I just see a big fact check. Look back. Go there, walking keys.
I didn't know that.
Hey, I thought we weren't fact checking on conspiracy theories.
I'm not fact checking. I was curious.
Yeah. So Mercury's timely locked, but Earth is not. Right.
I think to Keys' point, or if I'm understanding this right, Keys, what you're trying to say is that, like, especially in space, there's no friction, there's nothing like that. So an object in motion tends to stay in motion. So there had to be some kind of event that caused the moon to stop and lock in place, which is somewhat abnormal considering that it's been that way longer than humans have been able to do anything to manipulate the moon, right?
To our knowledge, we've never been able to manipulate the moon, really, and that I know of. But
wait till you get to my conspiracy theory.
Well, there are stories that the moon was built by ancient civilizations have stories how the moon was built or constructed or placed there. So those, it's very interesting because the way the moon is, the way that it locks in kind of in place and goes around us like that, it keeps the tides on a consistent basis. And like people used to plant seeds so they would harvest on full moons because it was fresher. And if they didn't want it to rot, like they were going to take it to the market in 2 days, they would harvest on a new moon with the furthest away from us. So like there was intention, almost everything, the lunar calendar, like all this stuff is based on cycles because of the moon. So if the moon didn't exist, we wouldn't have life as we know it, for sure.
Yeah. Well,
so supposedly
symbiotic relationship now. Yeah. Go ahead.
So supposedly we've been to the moon. So Keith, have we actually been to the moon or not?
Oh, we switched. Let's move over that.
No. I'm just asking.
That's a great segue to my topic. That topic is that the Apollo moon missions were a complete hoax. So I'm not saying I'm like 100% believing in my topic, But I want to explain a few things about that really give me pause, that makes me rethink, like, hold on, is this even possible? So I want to set the scene. During that time, it was the Cold War. In the late 50s, Russia was absolutely kicking America's butt in every possible way in space technology. I mean, they were like dominating us. They had like the first satellite, they had the first dog, they had the first human, first woman. Like, all the things were done by them before we even really hardly did anything. They were spending so much money, and they're still paying the cost of how much money they spent during that time. You know, and you know, if they were like, hey, we could fake this, you know, and save a ton of money, like, let's do that. I mean, that's a psyop in war, so it's not like, it's different than just trying to fool America. They weren't trying to, I mean, they needed to fool America, but they wanted to fool the Russians.
Yeah.
And that's a hell of a play if they did that. So I'm just saying, like, there is like motive behind a reason to fake moon landing missions. So that's number one. Number two is, I find it weird that of all the presidents that we've had over the past 100 years, only one of them was kicked out of office and left, you know, waving peace signs and getting on the helicopter, and that's Richard Nixon. Mm-hmm. And every moon landing mission, every time we went to the moon, they only happened under Nixon's presidency. We never landed on the moon in any other presidency, which I think is unique, especially since he was out before his full eight-year term. So that's like 5-year span where we were on the moon. So I think that's weird. The Van Allen radiation belt, which is a massive radiation belt that basically separates like when you really get out of like whatever inner space is, which is pretty much every space mission, everything we do in space, all of our satellites, all that's in inner space. Once you get past that, there's a radiation belt that's massive and a challenge to get through, and which is the biggest challenge for NASA scientists right now, to figure out how to get humans through that. How did the Apollo people get through that? It's never really truly been addressed. There's no real acknowledgement of it. It's just it's what it is. So that is curious. And then the last thing, which is to me, sold it to me that something is shady as heck. There were 3 guys that busted their butts their entire adult life, lived a very clean, healthy life their entire life, standout students, became NASA astronauts, and were picked to be the 3 people to go to the moon. If they went there, Neil Armstrong, Buzz Aldrin, and the other guy, Michael Collins. Right?
The other guy.
Michael Collins. I'm just kidding. I think it's Michael Collins, right? Now I'm doubting myself. But anyway, if they went to the moon and came back, getting out in that first press conference, you would imagine them being, oh my gosh, we did it. You know, ecstatic that they went and walked on the moon. And if you watch that press conference when they get back, it is the craziest thing you will ever see, ever, because they were so depressed. They were like, yeah, we were up there, and it was pretty amazing. Like, literally, that was it. And you should have seen watch an interview with them before they left. They were pumped, excited, and then, man, they were, you know, it was. I'm not sure what the story.
If they made it there,
maybe they saw something. You're right. Maybe they didn't actually go, and they know they're lying. You know, whatever it is, it was the shadiest thing. Like, one of the weirdest things I've ever seen ever in any press conference. So,
well,
those 3.
I mean, you could think that these guys saw, I mean, again, here's what we saw as the public, right? I'm sure there's lots of documentation. And then there's the real trip of what really happened, right? And probably some of that stuff, given the time frame, classified. I'd imagine the majority of that trip was classified.
Well, to Keith's point, it's just like, if you were literally the first person to do something and you became a national and even like global hero because of that, like you were the first 3 human beings to accomplish this feat. So let's say that they were super tired and recovering from their trip and all that. I mean, if you're NASA or you're the U.S. government that's trying to like promote this and propagandize it in some way, wouldn't you let them rest for like 48 hours before putting them in front of like cameras, in front of like, press at that point? You want them to look their best because they just accomplished something amazing.
Just watch it. They're not tired.
They're just depressed.
They're not
or something.
And here's the scenario. It's not something I believe in, right? But I will. Splinter Short says the comment here, which is very true. He says the poor dude prior to Armstrong who criticized the program, and there were 3 astronauts that died inside one of the Apollo capsules. One of them was kind of like saying, hey, this isn't safe. I don't like this. We need to test this. We haven't done enough testing. And then shortly after that, him and all 3 of them died. So that is important if that is in the mindset of these astronauts, that if they don't comply with what they're being told to do, then they could be in danger, right? I'm not saying this happened. I'm just saying in that scenario, if that was true, then wouldn't they be like, all right, I've got to say what I have to do, but I'm also going to try to say it in a way that people think maybe, that they could go back and see that. I don't know. I just think that they don't look like they're happy talking about what they're talking about.
Yeah.
It's like they're taking credit for something they didn't do. And I've seen that. I've seen people do that before.
So you were kind of on the fence about it. You think it happened or it didn't happen? Or there's just too much weirdness there for you to stay out of the way?
I wouldn't celebrate moon landing. Like I'm it's hard for me to say no, we didn't go to the moon, because I don't have that evidence either.
Yeah, exactly.
There's other stuff saying, hey, this is something doesn't add up. Like one way or another, something's not accurate. And again, the technology used in 1969 to 1970, whatever, 2 or 3, we got a man to the moon a couple times. We took a dang like Jeep Wrangler up there and was driving around the moon, picking up moon rocks and stuff. The astronauts on one of the Apollo missions made a phone call to President Nixon in the White House. Like all these things happened, and we couldn't replicate
50
it.
Years ago, 60 years ago.
We still can't replicate it. Yeah, we can't even come close to replicating the technology to take a Jeep up to the moon, drive it around, and come back. And NASA has officially said they have overridden the tapes that had the technology on it, and it's too hard to recreate the math.
Oh my god!
I bet you AI could recreate all that technology.
Oh, you're gonna put into the AI model. The model's gonna be like, this is not possible with the current technology.
Oh,
that would tell you something.
I'm sorry, so you don't have access to this model.
Oh yeah, that too.
CIA is on the way.
Don't say that word.
So, and I have to tell you, and I'm on the exact opposite, because my topic basically depends on us having actually gone to the moon, right? So I agree with you, during the 50s and 60s, we were in a crazy space race with Russia, and they weren't picking up. They did all of these different things. And then right at the tail end of that, we had a guy with Milton Cooper, who actually wrote a book called Behold a Pale Horse. And he specifically said that the government knew that there were basically alien bases on the moon, and that we were covering it up. And what's interesting, right, we see the rise of conspiracy theories now. But during that time, a lot of people were distrusting of the government, right? And we're not seeing kind of the same thing, this kind of, revitalization of conspiracy theories, because we don't trust the government. We think that they're hiding stuff from us. And not just NASA,
especially late 60s.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah, I mean, that was the culture.
Yeah. So, but I'm going to tie this into, so there's a couple of other things that I'm very interested in, right? Like I love psychics and aliens and stuff, such like that. And the 3-letter agency that I can't now mention, because Keith's about to.
It's just a suggestion.
So
much
the
help.
certain 3-letter organization back in the 70s and 80s actually did experiments with what's called remote viewing, right? So, and for anybody that doesn't know what remote viewing is, the 3-letter agency basically was doing experiments with psychic phenomena, and they had a project called Stargate. And they literally had these guys that would try to project their minds up into the moon. And they reported seeing buildings, vehicles, spaceships, all types of stuff, and actually seeing aliens there. So, I mean, that's, it's way fringe pseudoscience, right? There's no proof of it at all. Right? But the reality is, when you combine that with lack of trust of the government, you had astronauts that were coming back and saying, "Hey, we saw something on the moon," and a lot of other substantiated stuff. It does create a very interesting story because again, the moon is tidally locked, right? There's a part of it we can't see. The only way that we can see what's on the dark side of the moon is by sending ships over there, right? Spacecrafts over there, and you can pretty much say whatever you want. And even if people come back, and we have surveys that are done, even when you come back, the answer is always, well, you're hiding it from the people. Right? So even if you came back with evidence that there's really nothing there, people are not necessarily going to believe it. And look, I mean, I have pictures of the moon bases right behind me. I think it's real.
You brought your receipts.
Yeah, I did. I really did. So, I mean, but at the end of the day, right, I believe because of the fact we don't know, and again, before we even started tonight, we were talking about the moon has been really romanticized, and there are a lot of myths around the moon that have spanned, for multiple cultures, for eons in terms of just human history, and even before human history. Right? There are stories about the moon, and anything, any kind of even wild idea, there's going to be a group that's going to agree with it, right? And here's what the really weird thing is. Geez, how many times we talked about a conspiracy theory that we said was absolutely like there's no way that could be true, only to find out years later that it was true.
It comes out, yeah.
Yeah, I think the best evidence of that is the JFK. 63 that happened, and years like 15 years passed, and then a Senate committee hearing on assassinations said that it is likely that there were more than one shooters in that event. They didn't identify anybody. They just said it's likely that occurred, and that was all because of Jim Garrison stuff. Which was the backbone of the movie JFK. But like I think you're right, Darkest Night. There's so many things like MK Ultra. That was one thing that there were all these stories about it, and people, it was like rumored, and then like
people
in
got
the
killed,
90s
people were murdered, right? All that stuff.
They had like houses in San Francisco where they were like drug dens where they would test stuff. It was crazy. So,
and if anyone came forward, right? If anyone said, "Hey, we're gonna, blow the whistle on this," those people turned out just gone.
Yeah, they just disappeared.
Splitter shorts. I did mention the cycles of the moon, influencing us here. Yeah.
Darkest Night, you got anything else, or maybe we can jump into the comments?
No. So yeah, I'd like to hear some comments, right? Like this is some.
Well,
stuff.
Real quick. I mean, we can do comments, but I would like your input on where you all stand with like the moon landing, because I'm just curious.
So, there's what I'd like to believe, and then like where the more reasonable side. So, being the kind of like sci-fi nerd that I am, I'd like to believe that we're further along in our space progression as a species. So I want, like, if somebody can show me I want to believe that it happened, right? But I do think that at the very least there was an economic and geopolitical incentive for them to lie, right? For them to lie and for them to stage the entire thing. And then when you layer in the fact that we never went back, which fine, I can buy the argument, like, it wasn't financially viable, right? We didn't need to do it anymore after Soviet Union fell. Fine, like that's okay.
We lost interest.
we lost interest, but it seemed like and I was going to call it like a comment here from Jason earlier, right? It's just like the technological progression we made in the 1960s, from like 1960 to 1969 to go to the moon, was ridiculous. And then it's like everything just slowed down until the iPhone in 2007, right? The internet in the 90s, and then the iPhone in 2007. I don't know. To me,
internet was 60s.
No, I know, but until we got like the consumer version of it. So for example, you just said that, and I didn't know this, but one of the astronauts called the president from the moon.
From the White House
in the 70s.
Or to the
So my point is that like we did not start getting like consumer level cell technology until 25 years, 30 years later, which I guess is, when you think about it in the grand scheme of things, it takes a while for mass manufacturing and the technology to reach that level. But I don't know. It's a lot of it just feels off, to your point.
Yeah.
It just feels off.
Have you seen Hidden Figures, the movie, or read the book?
I haven't. Is it good?
Oh my gosh, it's one of I absolutely love that movie. Pharrell did the soundtrack too. I love the soundtrack, but it's just an unbelievable story. But the thing is, like, the math to get us to orbit the Earth in a spaceship or a module was done by freaking hand. Like, that's where we were when we were figuring out how to circle the Earth. It was done by hand. And then within like 6 years of that, we're landing on the moon. Like, I don't know.
So I believe we did, but I think we glorify it, and I think we understate the amount of risk that was associated, right? I mean, I think we literally, took your Jeep, strapped a rocket onto it, and basically said, "Good luck, fellas. If you live, you live." And they made it. Some people didn't make it, right? Some people died. Some people almost didn't come back. Some people didn't come back. So I think when you just look at the total cost of what happened, I think we were probably, looking back at it now, we were very reckless. But I do believe that we did it. And the fact that these guys even, some of them even came back is pretty miraculous. But at the end of the day, I think the reason why we haven't gone back was it was ridiculously expensive. We had one nation basically, destroy themselves economically for decades. And again, to continue that, expenditure, when we didn't really need to, I think that we were smart not to continue going, especially when there wasn't anything, commercial value and getting a return on investment outside the technological things. Just don't think it was worth it, right? And again, to be honest, unless we're going to build a moon base and we're going to use it as a stepping stone to go to Mars or to Venus or other places, and to use it as a low gravity production site to basically get us somewhere else, then I still don't think there's a reason for us to go. Right? I mean, we can get the benefits in orbit, right? So unless it's going to be a jump off spot, then I think it's that there are other things that we need to solve for, and maybe we have AI now because we didn't keep going.
That's an interesting way to look at it. If anybody's ever interested in a topic that kind of covers alternate history, or in a show that covers alternate history,
New Age.
For All Mankind is a series on Apple TV.
I want to check that out.
So the basic premise, this isn't going to give anything away because it happened in the first 5 minutes, but the basic premise of the show is what alternate history, what would have happened if the Russians landed on the moon first, and how the space race would have only ramped up from 1969 onwards. And then like each season so far, they've gone forward like a decade, right? So you see how like technology would have like impacted the world today. Like we would have had iPhones and stuff like a decade earlier, and things like that is what they were trying to get at, right? Smartphones and all that, just because the amount of capital and resources being poured into this would have had benefits all across the rest of the economy.
Do you guys remember a game from the 80s called Battlezone?
No,
what was it?
A game called Battlezone. I know you remember. Battlezone, the vector graphics game. where basically you're in a tank and you're driving around, shooting aliens and such. Well, they did a remake of that in, I believe, the 1990s, maybe early 2000s, and really it was about the militarization of the moon, because there were aliens. They weren't there anymore, but a lot of their resources were left behind, and the motivation for going back to the moon and settling it was to collect all of these resources. And it was a fascinating story, and an even better game. But again, that's an alternate sci-fi history, right? But other than that, there's no real reason to go back.
What if, and this is just me making up a theory, but like,
Yeah.
what if the satellite images in the early 60s or whenever they started coming in showed like leftover like alien military equipment, and it was a rush between us and the Russians to get there. And then after
That's
we
what
got
that is.
back, it was just like, mum is the word. Nobody's going to talk about
Yeah,
it.
nobody say nothing. You have what you have.
We got it
Let's
now.
go.
Yeah.
And now we have
Well-
stealth ships,
Mhm.
stealth, fighters, and we have, again, AI. We're toying with fusion technologies, right? All that stuff.
Oh, dude. Yeah, they're way ahead of us. We're not going to. What they have now, we won't know until the 40s, like 2040s. But I do think.
Oh, go ahead.
Well, I was just going to mention that China is actively pursuing a mission to Mars. I mean, to the moon,
To the moon.
and they put a satellite. I think they're the first country ever to land a satellite on the dark side of the moon. JEE-3 or something. I'm not looking at any data, so don't.
But here's the interesting part, right? So now we have the Artemis mission, right? We're going to send people back up there, and you have Elon, SpaceX, a private company
Yeah.
that's planning on going to the moon, right? So would you think Elon is going to not tell us what's going on? You think he's going to allow the government to classify his information? I don't think so. At least,
I mean, I'm not an Elon hater, but I don't know if he's going to share everything.
Oh, I mean, he just did. Aren't they doing a spacewalk this week or something?
Something like
think
that. I mean, don't get me wrong. I want to see him and SpaceX make it to Mars. That would be pretty awesome.
but the moon is a good first step, right?
Yeah.
If you can get to the moon, the Mars.
We would almost have to if we're gonna for a man mission.
Yeah. Agreed. All right, hey, let's jump into the chat here because I want to say hey to some folks, and
Yes.
then I don't be respectful of our time because we got maybe about 20 or so minutes left. So let's just go. I'm gonna go pretty far back here, but we'll try to rip through some of these. So Tail says better get protective detail for Darkest Night before the MIB are attached.
Yeah.
Moon is not hollow, it's filled with chocolates. John Lear's moon-based theory. Is that what you're referring to, or is that something different?
It's
I'll have
not
to look
right.
into that. People's Guild is in the house. Let's go.
What's up,
Yep.
dude?
Tails is
John
asking
Lear
here-
is like the son of the guy, the Lear jet guy. I'm pretty sure he's like a huge proponent of aliens and stuff and spacecraft, alien spacecraft and stuff.
Well, we'll
Don't
look
quote
into
me.
it. So Tails is asking, is the standard like max crater depth proven? Satellite images from orbit aren't great at depicting such things.
Yes.
I keep hearing that come up, but the other
Yeah,
thing is
same.
they've done gravimetric surveys of the moon, and they have a pretty good understanding of that what it's made of, its density, and stuff like that. That's been pretty conclusive.
But they don't know how it was formed officially, and they don't know anything about the interior other than those 2 seismic drops they did.
Gotcha.
But the
Bananas,
depth
what's
is
Oh,
Google
sorry, go
it.
ahead. Google it. But nobody trusts Google anymore either. All right.
Well, I
Bananas
mean-
saying play Dark Side of the Moon. You're gonna get me demonetized. I think that's what he's trying to do. All right. So there's
Are you
convention-
monetized? I didn't know you were monetized.
There was a convention in the 80s to finally decide the moon's origin, and they said, how can we theorize about the universe when we can't even determine the origins of our closest satellite?
As they say in Cosmos, baby steps,
Mm-hmm.
small steps.
Baby steps. Octwell, thanks for being here. All right, so we talked about this one from Jason already. Callie calling from 4:15 in the morning. Hell yeah, thanks for tuning in. Banana says the moon is a spaceship for aliens that feed off of our negative emotions. It's like Monsters
Oh,
Inc.
they're dead. Yeah.
What are
They're
those?
getting
The soul towers?
The Soul Tower.
Isn't that theory?
No, I don't think I've heard that one.
Yeah, it's where there's like soul collection towers where they collect negative energy from the earth.
Oh, maybe that's what they're there. Bolts, what's up? Banana says the aliens actually compelled Splinterlands to shut down Mav Chat. Oh, the first Splinterlands reference, I think.
Whoa. Did Mav Chat get shut down?
Oh, yeah, it did. It's gone now.
No. I hated Mav Chat.
Oh, so you must be happy then.
I'm neutral, but
So
remember, I
that
thought it was
smile on your face doesn't say
they
neutral.
took away Mav Chat and they replaced it with three. They replaced it with like people who have a certain amount of CP, people who have a certain amount of land, and people who have a certain amount of SPS. So
the elite group.
Yeah, well, so the thing is, there was an issue with Mav Chat in the sense that all you had to do was buy 1,000 packs or something,
1,000 packs.
And so you just had like literally dozens of people in there who had sold out of everything. They sold out of the game, and they were just there every day bitching about it. Yeah, just throwing shade. And so it's just like, okay, well, if you're gonna do that, then that's fine. Go do it in Tavern. The people who are still kind of like, invested in the game that have significant things, they want to have conversations about those specific things.
So, it was super toxic. Yeah, it was super
toxic. Interesting question from Tails here. Wouldn't Russia just ignore the propaganda and call it fake staged? Did they not?
Yeah, they would call it fake stage if they believed it was fake.
So they thought it was real.
I mean, they sold everybody on it. Mm-hmm. Like, it's in history books across the world.
Yeah.
Like, I'm just saying, like, it's, in my opinion, it's got to be like a hybrid thing if it was faked, where they actually sent people to space, let them go around the Earth a couple times, for like 6 days or whatever, and bring them back. So, yeah, but I mean,
that would be an interesting thought.
Which is still like a legitimate and impressive feat, but then fake the actual landing part, and then if you could do that and save your, hundreds of millions of dollars at that point, billions of dollars. So
Splinter Short says they got through the Van Allen belts because it wasn't discovered yet. Guess that's the case. And now
I guess they just got lucky sneaking through there. But if we haven't discovered fire yet, you'll still get burned.
Nah, that's true. I'm surprised the moon landing is still a conspiracy, says People's Guild. Feels like the evidence against it is ever happening is overwhelming. Should be a fact at this point. Well, until there's a smoking gun, I don't think.
That's the whole thing with conspiracy theories, right?
Yeah,
they don't really truly go away, and you can always find
until
something pro. Yeah, you can always find pro.
Yeah, same thing with JFK at this point, right? Like, I mean, everybody looks at the evidence and it's like, there's no way he was shot by like one person in the back of the head, right? Like none of that makes sense. Yet you can go to Dallas and literally the official narrative is still, was it Lee Harvey Oswald from this angle in the library or whatever that was, right? So,
I mean, this is the power of myth.
Mm-hmm. It's also a private museum. And if it was a conspiracy, then there's two other locations, that aren't owned by them, and they can't charge a fee to have you go through it.
Have you go through there, yeah.
So
Leandro, what's up?
They make money.
This AI will tell you everything is a lie. I saw y'all responded to this one, Keys. Yeah, it doesn't look like we're gonna touch that one.
I won't talk about that one.
Will there ever be a point where you would talk about it if something else came to light?
Yeah, I mean, it's like,
because we've danced around it in the past. I mean, I'm not itching to talk about it either. I have feelings one way or another, but it is what it is.
Yeah, it's different to talk about things that happened before I was even alive.
Sure.
Than talk about things where I knew people, involved with it.
New people involved with it. All right.
Well, like I had, friends that had family in the towers and stuff like that.
Fair enough. All right, so Splinter Short saying BJ Angles they can debunk it by putting peeps on the moon again and getting sponsored by Red Bull. And doing a 24-hour dude, send one of these streamers up there. Come on, I'm sure they can raise the money for that.
At this point, we could send. Well, we have been doing it. Send drones and send.
Better than billionaires putting phalluses in the sky. You all see the menu start goats. I think you responded to that already. We respond to the moon. 28-day cycles influences life on Earth. MK Ultra was LSD laced brothels. Yeah.
Yeah, that was
Man,
part
if
of it.
I was
yeah.
around then, they would have got me for sure.
Yeah.
It was a wide arching program that did a ton of different things.
I haven't watched or listened to this JRE episode. I haven't even heard the name Bart Sibrel. Did either of you guys watch it?
I don't know that one offhand now.
Oh, I'll go check it out. Is it People's Guild? Is this just curious if this is like alien or moon related? After someone's filling the moon with vouchers, waiting for the People's Guild store to open. Oh my gosh, dude! This is the worst I've felt about vouchers in a while because I see the price going up and I can't sell them. I'm just sadly stacking them in my account, waiting, itching for the day to be able to hit the sell button on vouchers once again. I have too many. I'm allergic to them. New Age is in the house. What's up? Let's freaking go. Cost doesn't make sense as we drop TNT onto countries. Yeah, that's true. Raceland says, excited to listen to this. Never saw the first one. I think this is our third one. Yeah, I believe this is our third one. First one, we kind of just did everything. The second one, we did JFK and MK Ultra. So, I watched the 2016 Senate grilling of NASA's request for funding. For their $53 million per day, they had no real plan to get to Mars and were only looking at the moon. Okay. Raceland says, Elon is already more aware than he claims to be. If you think he'll disclose knowledge on ET aircraft, you're incorrect, as free energy technology would make Tesla obsolete.
We assume that we would have access.
Unless he can integrate it.
Yeah.
And then get a trademark on it.
True. Yeah, I mean, this is not like anti-Elon. I think anybody who's in like the upper echelons of like network, I think they probably know more than they can disclose.
I will say this, and I like Elon, but if you look at him, I feel like if we were all in a movie right now, he's the guy that we know is going to become that supervillain. Like he's going to be something's going to piss him off, and he's going to become that supervillain.
Yeah, some people think he's going to become Iron Man, so somewhere in the middle, right?
Well, Iron Man is now Doctor Doom.
Yeah.
Iron Man. Spoiler alert! Come on, man.
Dude, that was the biggest news.
Just kidding. Secret Flesh says it's 2024, but sometimes I don't have phone signal, and man in the 60s can call from the moon to Earth. 60s is great. They have powerful antenna and receiver.
I do think it was
Blockchain
71,
projects.
by the way.
71, yeah. Blockchain prices. How many golden?
I'm not sure, dude. Definitely one. I got to figure out what the requirements are. I haven't seen anything on it. I've been checking the Discord. That's MTD. That's Marvel or McFarlane Toys Digital.
Gotcha. Ooh,
Yeah.
Bart Sibrel is the de facto expert on the moon landing being a hoax. It's a 3-hour conspiracy theory stream. All right, yeah, I gotta go check this one out now for sure.
I will check that out.
All right, 2141 is the episode. All right, so just to turn things a little bit more modern, and this is not moon related, but more like alien related, UAP related. I don't know how much you've been following this, but Matthew Pines did an interview with What Bitcoin Did, and it was only like the last 20 minutes of the excuse me, only the last 20 minutes of the podcast. And he's talked about this before, but essentially like there's disclosure happening now. There's the book that just came out, imminent, by Lou Elizondo, who is the former director of the ATIP program, like former like counterintelligence. Are you guys following any of that? Because I went down the rabbit hole the other day, and I think I'm gonna get this guy's book now just because I'm curious to see. Like they're talking about the fact that, I mean, government has all this stuff. Like there's multiple people coming out, and now there's like bigger names set to like offer disclosure and give their stories later this year. Is this all a psyop is what I'm wondering. am I getting psyop right now?
The government has been releasing a bunch more information than they have ever before. It's still kind of slow, right? So are they building up to some big reveal, or what's going on there? So I think a lot of people would be still skeptical of what's going on.
Keith thinks I'm getting suckered.
Yeah.
So, do you
I'll tell you why.
go ahead?
I'm not telling you you are. I have no idea. And like that's my common thread through all these conspiracies. I have no idea, dude. But at this point, my default is, hey, you need to prove, at least give me a little proof. And so the releases, if they have anything attached to the Pentagon, a Pentagon whistleblower, like that's just not allowed. You know, like that stuff doesn't happen. And so we're also in an election
controlled opposition or something.
Yeah, we're also in an election year. A candidate there was an assassination attempt when there was a clear breakdown of something from somewhere. And there's a lot of questions, a lot of animosity in the world, in the United States right now. You know, if you could distract the large portion of people with, you know, Caitlin Clark, football, and some alien stuff, then that's great.
Because then they're focused on what's important, right?
Yeah, then you don't have enough people to stay focused on keeping you off track.
The most intriguing thing about it was they were talking about like a 7-year disclosure plan, because the idea of like dropping this on the public now, right, or all in one go would probably create too much social unrest.
So
civil unrest.
it's a plan. It's a planned. Like then if they're not even trying to release it to the public, they're gating it themselves.
Oh well, they have been gating it.
Yeah, so they're good, so 50s, they can make 60s. Money on it. Yeah. Oh, they're not trying to do anything for the good of humanity. You know, drop it all at once.
Well, there's an element. Well, no, I mean, so he released a book, so there's obviously an economic incentive for him to like get people to go and buy this book, right? Well, let me just ask you this.
Dude, if you really had information, and I mean if you really had information, you would not be allowed to drop a freaking book. You wouldn't be able to write a book. You just wouldn't. There's no way. Okay. Like, and I'm not even about aliens. If you knew of a mission that happened in Algiers, you know, in '88, and you wanted to write a book, and you started putting stuff in there that wasn't supposed to be in there, that book will not come out. You know, unless you release it on Reddit or put it somewhere. There's other places.
If you were just trying to put it out for the sake of putting
then you'd be like Snowden running for your life.
Yeah, or you put it out if there was enough people that had access to that information that you wouldn't be pinpointed. You know, like if you were one of 3 people that knew the information, I wouldn't do it. But if you're one of like 100 or 150, it's a lot easier to leak something.
Yeah. All right.
So we have about 5 minutes left. What do you want our next conspiracy theory to be?
Yours. Then you want an alien spaceship? You want to talk any more about that?
No, the alien base. I think
a topic for the future is what he's saying. If we were to do another one.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Well, there's a lot of alien, you know, United States and Russia actually having alien craft. There's a lot of them.
Can I drop one of my conspiracy theories?
Sure.
And it's not something I believe again, but it is a conspiracy theory. Nikola Tesla was a certified genius, possibly he created the backbone of the electricity we use, the backbone of the radio, the Wi-Fi that we used was conceived by him. He died in the New York hotel, and all of his possessions were taken over by the government, by Office of Alien Affairs, because he was an alien, like someone from a different country, not from a different planet, just to be clear. Shortly after that, 3 years after that, was a massive technology boom in the United States. At the same time was the first Roswell incident, which really put UFOs on the map. And if you're going to put it out there as a psyop, how are they getting this technology? And you could put it out there that we're getting it from aliens, which in the 60s, that was the big 50s, 40s. Aliens were like the topic. Watch Back to the Future, you know? Like aliens and space was on everyone's mind. If you could do that, and you stole all of Tesla's technology to create all these this big leap of growth. I always thought that was interesting.
So you're thinking they just took Tesla's technology, all of his
Yeah,
stuff
and
that
then
had not been
started
released
faking
yet.
things so
Yeah.
that way their tests of different things got hidden.
I wouldn't
Okay.
mind doing a theory on Tesla. Do the show on Tesla. He wasn't.
I mean, Tesla was crazy, but I mean that's just something I was like just thinking because the dates.
And he
line up.
died penniless, right? He died penniless, right? So
Yeah, well, a lot of people attacked him, and he was a true inventor. He didn't have a mind for business like Edison, you know. But
All right.
he invented some stuff.
So I just typed into ChatGPT, what are the top 10 most entertaining, and I specifically use entertaining conspiracy theories. So I'll list these off to you in case any of them catch your fancy. Flat Earth, moon landing, which we did already, Area 51 and alien encounters, the reptilian elite, chemtrails, Bigfoot, the Bermuda Triangle, Paul McCartney is dead, the Illuminati, and the Denver airport.
Which we've talked about that before too.
We talked about the Denver.
Denver Airport's one of my favorites.
Maybe you know what? Because I remember we talked about it, but I haven't jumped deep into the deep end, so that might be something interesting.
Well, let's
for the
talk
future.
about like not just Denver Airport because there's like, you know, we could talk Groom Lake, which is like or just secret military bases. There's the you know, Area 51. You have Mount Weather. We could talk about the Greenbrier, which is a fascinating story, which is in West Virginia.
How about we each pick our own favorite secret military base?
All right,
or secret.
That
base.
works.
Let's do that.
We'll coordinate. We'll coordinate offline. Let me just wrap up some of the chat here, and then we'll close out.
You do whatever you want to do after Sam.
Well,
Yeah,
no, I know. I'm trying to be
It's your
respectful
world.
of time. We're trying to keep it to an hour. You know. All right. So unless he turned into anti-grav tech developer, but no need for that. Companies such as Raytheon, Lockheed. Oh, but he could open source. Recent was the best mage. Hope SPS goes to the moon so we can buy a $16,000 AI humanoid robot. Is that how much it costs to get an AI girlfriend now?
What a bargain.
Shorts. This is a real name. Parents were Dragon Lance. Okay, cool. All right, so Walking Keys using the Bowen's keep whistleblower quiet technique. Oof. That's
I don't know what you're talking about.
and relevant. I used to really like the band Tesla when I was a kid in the 80s. The report on Nikola Tesla room checked by CIA is available, and they didn't find any important notes. Case closed.
Yeah, they absolutely did. They did go in there and check it. 3 days after
everything was cleared out.
Yeah.
Everything's cleared out.
Oh, and CIA, by the way, CIA, we're talking 57. So I don't even think CIA was created at that point, or it was just.
It would have been the FBI then.
Or what was the? Yeah, CIA. Yeah, I don't know. When did the war end? 46, 45.
45. Yeah.
It was like 48, I guess. CIA. I don't know.
Right,
I don't know. It's
Bananas
interesting.
Yeah, Bananas listed a bunch here too. So moon landing, 9/11, flat Earth, Illuminati, Paul McCartney. A lot of the same ones: reptilian, chemtrails, JFK.
The Solarians. I like the idea of it talking about
Controlling
Solarians.
weather.
I love HARP. HARP's a good one.
That's another one. Okay, so maybe we got a couple that we can.
Plum Island's a good one. I guess
all
that
right,
would
so
be a secret military base.
Edison electrocuted an elephant.
Is that where all the gold is buried?
He did no. He did electrocute an elephant. That's a true story. Plum Island is off of like Nantucket. It's Montauk. It's like testing of animals and chemicals and stuff. And it's possible that Lyme disease was created there and then accidentally was released in New York. I called Lyme New York, and that's how the name got attached to that disease, because that's where it happened. Dumbs is a good one.
Wait, what's Dumbs?
Deep underground military base structures, I think, or something like that.
What's this one from Secret Flesh about Trump's
That is
uncle
true.
securing Tesla's time machine?
Well, let me rephrase. Trump's uncle, I want to say Fred Trump, if I'm not mistaken, worked for Office of Alien Affairs,
Sure did.
and he was one of the first ones to go into Tesla's office or Tesla stuff and into this hotel room. And they were in there for 3 days, and then the family was allowed to come in and get, his belongings. He lived at the hotel though, which wasn't really uncommon in New York at the time.
I'm gonna have to go down the Tesla rabbit hole too.
Yeah, or one I would love to talk about too is the Coral Castle in Florida, and the power plant pyramid theory, pyramid power plants.
Okay. Well, we got some options for next time. If you guys have any thoughts, just throw them in the comments. I guess once the live is done. Any
if we do anything about Florida, we have to get Tails on too.
Oh yeah. Well, actually, we can. Yeah, we have to get Tails on for sure. Tails, you're welcome to jump on.
Yep.
I mean, not now, but in the future.
Hop on. We'll see you in a minute.
Final thoughts, Darkest Night?
This is great, man. Let's do it again. Lots of conspiracy theories out there. Plenty to keep us busy. Yeah, I don't think we can make some new ones ourselves.
That's true.
Let's do it. So
that's
great.
Keys?
Yeah, just to wrap up the moon talk, I think it is still one of the biggest mysteries, and it stares at us every single night. So it's just unique. I love talking about it. So I appreciate the time. It's fun talking with you guys.
Always, man.
And we actually had the blue moon a couple of nights ago.
Right?
We did.
It was awesome. Yeah,
it looked incredible.
It was awesome.
I just want to learn the truth, man. I just want to know what the truth is. That's all.
Well,
the truth is out there.
The truth is out there. All right, guys. This is fantastic.
I believe.
Thank you, everybody, for tuning in. Hope you guys enjoyed. We'll try to do this again sooner than we did this one. It took a while, but we got
sometime in November.
And I think just keeping it to like an hour so we don't just ramble on. That's probably the best, right?
Yeah, it's perfect.
Then all of a sudden it becomes something that's not like, oh, when are we gonna do this again?
Yeah,
so
exactly.
All right, fellas. As always, a pleasure. Thanks everybody for tuning in. Catch y'all later. Peace.
Take care.